Just want to share a quick little insight from our City General Conference this morning. While I was helping clean the church, I was listening to the October 1932 General Conference, and Elder Stephen L. Richards of the Quorum of the 12 was speaking. Now, this is right before Elder Richards becomes a member of the First Presidency. And Elder Richards was talking about debt. And then he starts talking about something that I thought was just mind-blowing. He talked about the fact that the federal government was spending too much money and how it disgusted him to see institutions and governments spending exuberant amounts of money. And then he said something that I'd never heard about. He talked about that there was a growing movement demanding a taxpayer-funded, not politician, but a taxpayer committee to review federal spending. And that they needed to go through and they needed to find the waste, and they also needed to find the things that the government simply can't be doing anymore. And I'm like, holy crap, 1932, they're talking about this. And then he said something that was even more interesting. He said that there are many things the government does that they legally have the right to do, but that they shouldn't be doing because morally we spend too much money and we have to lower our spending so that we can lower our taxes. And that he said that we need to reduce the tax burden. And because government spending must be supported through taxes or through inflation and printing of money, therefore they need to lower the government spending in order for us to be able to lower the taxes and reduce the burden on the working class American citizen. And I'm like, holy crap. If you want to talk about a talk that was applicable in 1932 and also one that's applicable in 2025, this is the talk from Stephen L. Richards. And he just flat out basically says, and more or less if it was in 2025, he would have come out and said, we need DOGE. We need someone who can come into the federal government and point out all the waste, all the fraud, all the abuse, but also point out all the stupidity and also point out all the things that morally we have no business doing, even if legally we have every right to do. And then he goes on, and Stephen L. Richards said something that I thought was very important. He said that no honest politician should have an issue with this. That every honest politician should understand that as all Americans have to tighten their belt, have to cut, have to go through austerity measures, that it's only proper that the federal government has to do so as well. That they need to spend less money and that they need to make sure that their fiscal house is in order. And I was just like, this talk should be reprinted and shouted from the housetops, because if it was applicable in 1932, it is 10 times more today. Because right now, politicians are screaming over any cut to anything because no one wants a cut for them. They only want a cut for you. They're like, oh, well, my program's got to stay all intact. Not a penny can be lost. In fact, they need to increase their funding. But your programs need to be cut. And Stephen L. Richards said, no, everything needs reductions.